Let's take a moment, go through dynamics processing and the new tube modeled compressor here in Audition. So as you can see, I've got a little mono voice track here. And as I play it back,
It's the season for Christmas parties, get-togethers with friends, and heading out for New Year's Eve.
so that was recorded a little bit low. So I'll just use the on-screen gain control to bring the gain up on that so it doesn't peak, but just have a little higher look at it. And you can see we've got a peak here. There's some peaks down here, a peak over here, but the rest of the level's still kind of low. Still not what we want to really separate from our music bed in our commercial. So we need to do a little work on this. We need to use some compression to even out the levels. Last year I showed you effects, amplitude and compression, dynamics processing. So you can go in and adjust threshold points. You can adjust your compression ratio with this. And if you like the sounds you're getting with this, keep doing it, keep using it. You can use either changing the graph or you can use some of the presets here. So however you get the sounds you like, keep doing that. If that's this module, go ahead. But I think there's a better way, and that better way is the tube modeled compressor. So before we get into that, you have to sort of understand how sound works. And this is how a car horn looks like. So the sound starts from 0, very quickly gets to its loudest point, sustains through the rest of the sound, and then goes back to 0. And that is called the ADSR envelope, which stands for attack, decay, sustain, and release. And what we're trying to do with compression is just take this loud point here and bring it down more on the level of the sustain, so our level is going to be much more consistent as it goes through. And then we'll apply makeup gain to make that overall level much higher. So the tube modeled compressor is an effects, amplitude, and compression tube modeled compression, and it really doesn't look like anything special, does it? But it works really well. You have one control, one slider control, 2 sets of meters, and 5 boxes with numbers in them. So the first one here is the slider control. This is our threshold control. And again, threshold, if you cross the threshold of a house, you're going into the house. If you cross the threshold of compression, you're going into the compressor. So the audio that crosses the threshold is being squished down and compressed. So as we adjust the threshold control, it also adjusts the number in the threshold box. And what we can do is we can actually go in and put our own number in there, and the slider will jump to the point we set. Next, these meters on the left, they go from bottom to top. They are the input level of the signal going into compression. So that's just our input level. And this other single meter here, this is gain reduction. This shows how much compression we're adding. The other box is here, gain, that's makeup gain. So that is how much signal we're adding after the fact, after we've squished our audio down, how much audio do we have to make up for that squishing to get our levels back up nice and high. Ratio, right now it's 4.5 to 1. And compression ratio is the same in this module as it was in dynamics processing. So once the audio crosses the threshold point, audio that was going to go up 4.5 dB in this case, we're only going to let go up 1 dB. We're going to change the dynamics. We're going to process the dynamics of that audio. As that changes, so here if I have 14.5 to 1, audio that once it crosses the threshold was going to go up a lot at 14.5 dB, we're only going to let go up 1 dB. So we're really going to change the dynamics. If that's set too high, it's going to really sound quite unnatural. So I prefer something less than 5. So we'll just bring it down to, okay, 4.2 to 1. Attack. Now this is similar to the ADSR envelope, where the attack is how long the sound takes to go from 0 to its loudest point. But here, attack is how fast do you want your compressor to act on your voice track. So from when it crosses the threshold. Right now, I've got it set for 0.5 milliseconds. It's going to take 0.5 milliseconds for our compressor to start acting on that audio. And I like a fairly fast attack, 0.5 milliseconds. You can set this up really high, so 500 milliseconds, half a second. So it takes half a second for your compressor to act on your audio. But I want to really control those levels, so I like it 0.5. You can play around with this and decide what's best for your particular preference and experiment. See what sounds most natural to you. Release works pretty much the same as attack, but in the opposite direction. When the audio crosses the threshold, the attack says how fast the compressor is going to grab a hold of it. When the audio starts going back down and gets below the threshold, the release is how fast the compressor is going to let go. And again, you can adjust this up really high, so you can have 5,000 milliseconds. So 5 seconds, it's going to take the compressor to let go. What you'll find is if you have that set too high, what you'll hear is called pumping. You'll hear the audio trying to act, trying to change, but the compressor's still acting or still letting go. So it'll sound very, very unnatural. But you experiment and you try different sounds until you get the sound you like best. Your ears are different than mine. My experience has been, though, 0.5 milliseconds and somewhere around 50, that is going to sound natural in most cases. Now, you can go the other way, too. You can have those set far too fast and have those numbers far too small. And when that happens, the audio almost sounds like it's vibrating as the compressor grabs a hold and then releases, grabs a hold and then releases, grabs a hold and then releases. So it sounds like the audio will start to vibrate, and that's going to sound very unnatural. So those are the controls that are available to you. And watch what happens as I put audio through the input and then I adjust the threshold down, 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 down. We're going to see more and more gain reduction happen on this meter. What else is going to happen?
'Tis the season for Christmas parties, get-togethers with friends, and heading out for New Year's Eve. Whatever you're celebrating downtown, make a night of it at the Bostonian Executive Suites.
So the more compression we add, the more unnatural it sounds, and the smaller our level gets. So that's not going to work. We have to find a balance.
Stay any weekend from now until January 8th from just $89 per night. No driving, no parking, no waiting for taxis. No worries. The Bostonian Executive Suites. Play and stay from just $89.
So if I set our threshold somewhere up here at minus 13, what's happening is as the audio comes in, when it hits the threshold, it's only the audio above the threshold that gets sent over to gain reduction. So that sounds fairly natural, but yet we can still see we're at about minus 6 or minus 9 in gain reduction, so we're actually squishing the audio down quite a bit.
A night. The Bostonian Executive Suites, Ottawa's affordable luxury hotel.
So now what I'm going to look for is the audition meter and look at the level here and how much makeup gain I have to add to get our levels back up close to 0.
341 McLaren between O'Connor and Bank Street. Log on to thebostonian.ca. 'Tis the season for Christmas parties, get-togethers with friends, and heading out for New Year's Eve. Whatever you're celebrating downtown, make a night of it at the Bostonian Executive Suites. Stay any weekend from now until January 8th from just $89 per night. No driving, no parking, no waiting for...
As I adjusted it up, I had to check and see how the audio played through and how much makeup gain I needed to add. So I added a little too much, took it back down. So we've got audio coming in, it hits our threshold point, everything that's above that goes over to gain reduction, and we can see how much compression we're adding. Then we've added some makeup gain, so our squished level is going to go back up to a nice high level, and we apply this, and we get this. So our levels are up really close to 0. The audio is consistent all the way through, so this voice track is really going to stand out from our music bed. So when I undo that, we can see what we had to start with after we boosted the gain a bit, and then we redo the compression effect, and we've got a nice consistent level. We have something we can work with now. And what we get with the tube modeled compressor that I like so much, not only can we hear what we're doing as we're adding the compression, we get visual feedback so we can see how much compression we're adding. We can see how much makeup gain we have to add down here in the meters. So we can hear what it sounds like, we get the visual feedback, and then now we're ready to take our voice track to the next step and mix our commercial.